Welcome to the National Counties Cricket Show. And following our little preview, the NCCA trophy that we did with Ben Wilcox last week, got Richard Logan with us today, the director of the NCCA, just to talk all things NCCA and what's going on, what's happened over the winter, etc., etc. So, welcome, Mr. Logan. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to actually getting some cricket on.
Yeah, it's
And
nice.
yeah, a lot of organisation goes on in the winters, obviously. So most of that, well, all of that's done now. But it's just we're looking forward to getting out on the park and getting some cricket played.
Yeah, well, what's been the major sort of changes to the NCCA over the winter? I know the schedule's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose that is the biggest thing. It's always hard to put your finger on what the biggest thing is because quite a few things change and we discuss a lot. Some of the things don't change. But one thing we have moved around this year is the format. So the 50 over competition, the trophy, is going to start the season off. So that starts on the 27th. And then we follow that with the T20 competition, and the 3-day competition comes at the end. That's probably always going to stay at the end because we play that a lot over the summer holidays with students, with teachers. It's difficult. We try and mitigate against people having too much time off work, and if they can have the Monday, Tuesday that competition needs,
Yeah.
and we can have that in the holidays, then the better. But yeah, the first two competitions is we've moved around for the first time, certainly since I've been involved, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and getting the 50 over trophy early in the season, there's a lot of talk in the professional game about potentially moving some of the Metro Bank over the next couple of years towards that front end of the season. Is that part of the sort of thought process?
Well, I think the main thing was we've been really unlucky, I suppose, is the way to describe it, with the weather over the last couple of years. We've had really wet starts to the season, and I think when the rain affects a T20 game, you tend to lose the whole game.
Yeah.
And if you've lost the first game and it's still raining as the start of the second game, you're potentially going to lose that one as well. Whereas with a 50 over game, if it starts and it starts raining, I think you've got more chance of getting a sort of 25, 30, 35 over game in,
Yeah.
because you don't want to lose the whole game. So I think that was one of the contributing factors. We wanted to see the T20 competition played later on in the year on better wickets, so we can have sort of 150, 160, 170, 180 play against 150, 160, 170, 180, rather than some of the games that we have early on in the year when the wickets are a bit more sporting and you kind of have 110 plays sort of 100. So we wanted to give that a go and see if we can play on better wickets. I suppose, not to contradict ourselves with that, we've always wanted to have players playing in competition that is being played above us in the first class sort of structure. However, how many players actually step up straight into one of those first teams
Yeah.
isn't very high. So I think as long as we're still playing white ball cricket and there's that sort of cricket going on, whether it be T20 or Metro Bank, I think it's still a good shop window for the players. And if they're performing well in either of our competitions, then there's going to be opportunities, whether that be with second 11 cricket, with Saka, with Ace, with the challengers, or whatever that may be. I think there's still going to be opportunities for them to step up, because obviously we don't want to stand in the way of that. But we've also got to be mindful of what's best for our competition.
Yeah.
And I think it was a pretty sort of majority decision when we went through to speak to the counties, when we spoke to the cricket committee at the NCCA. Then yeah, it was a fairly easy decision to make. Not one that everybody agrees with, but it's really difficult when you've got 20 counties to get everybody to agree to everything. So
Yeah.
it was definitely a majority thing there.
No, I like that though, because I think you're right in what you're saying in that the counties, the first class counties out there, they've pretty much set with their squads, aren't they, for that first couple of months of the season when it's county championship, and nothing's going to really change there. But then it gives the opportunity for the white ball specialists to play for their NCCA county where they might have played before and warm up for A, the Blast, and B, the Metro Bank a bit later on. So I can see that sort of thinking works really nicely in terms of, whilst it's not a direct correlation as it used to be, it works probably better, I think.
Yeah, and time will tell on that. So we've had a lot of players that have come back and played in our T20 competition at the start of the year. Now they may very well come back and play in the 50 over competition. I see no reason why they wouldn't do that to get some cricket in,
Yeah.
get some time at the wicket. And it's probably easier to do that in 50 over cricket than it is T20. And to be honest, 50 over and T20 cricket aren't massively different. The way people play in them isn't massively different anymore anyway. It's all a bit crash, bang, wallop. So I think we'll still see that, and hopefully we'll still see the players come into the T20 competition. Even if they don't, we've got so many high-quality players in our competition. I don't think the quality will suffer at all. And it might give some youngsters the opportunity to come in at the bottom end and still give our better players at the top end a chance to sort of step up and play some second 11 cricket, or, like I said, those other sort of stakeholders that are in that area, to give them the opportunity to be seen by the first-class counties.
Do you know, you've just literally read my mind, a sort of a question that I guess asked regularly by people about the NCCA, and it'll sort of mirror what you've just been talking about, is eligibility of these players. The great example being Harrison Ward last year playing for Oxfordshire, got his white ball contract, went off, played for Sussex in the Blast, and had a great Blast actually. He was then with the Oval Invincibles, I think, towards the end of the season in the 100. Yeah, but he's just been announced as the Oxfordshire white ball captain in the NCCA this year. Just explain to listeners who don't know, because it's quite a complicated thing for those who have no idea. How is a player become eligible for an NCCA county?
So I'll try and simplify it as much as possible. There's two criteria, really, two key things that we look at. And that's where we call it homegrown status.
Yeah.
And we have an age eligibility criteria. So every team that goes on an NCCA field, so to speak, has to have 8 players, or the 8 youngest players in their team cannot add up to more than 200 years of age, their aggregate age. So once you've got those 8, the 8 youngest players adding up to 200 or less, then you're all good. The other 3 players can be my age, if you dare wish, or 35, 32, 31, or whatever. So that's the age side of things. So that was brought in a few years ago to ensure that we were playing a good mix of players, because that doesn't mean that you need 8 really young players in. It just means you need a really good mix. So you generally find there are some 18, 19-year-olds in that. You've then got your bulk of your squad that maybe between sort of 21 and 28. And then you might have 2 or 3 senior players. And I think everybody who's involved in cricket at any level knows that you need a mix of those kind of players to create a team that's successful. You need your experience, you need your youth, and then you need your bulk of your squad. So that's kind of how that came about. And then the homegrown criteria is to make sure people are playing local players, because we don't want people moving around all over the place or people shipping people in. So again, we're looking at 8 players that have to have homegrown or adhere to the homegrown criteria. So that's born in the county, played county age group in the county over the age of 13, are educated in the county over the age of 13, or play club cricket in the county. So they're the 4 things.
So someone like Harrison Ward qualifies, because people will ask the question with someone who's got a white ball contract. How does Harrison still qualify?
He's an Oxford lad.
Full stop. Nice and simple.
That's it. So you are then, as with the age stuff, you're allowed 3 out of county players, so to speak. But I monitor all that throughout the year, obviously, because people have to adhere to this criteria. And there's a lot of players. I think Norfolk are a great example, actually. In their one-day competition, they had 10 or 11 homegrown players for the whole of their the one-day competition, and they won it. So I think that shows a number of things potentially, but it shows that if you invest in good coaching for your homegrown players and your in-county players, then you can create a team of homegrown players that are really strong. You can get around it a little bit by playing club cricket there or whatever, but in essence, we can't be we can't have too many rules, because what we don't also want is players that are falling out of the professional game that might have been born in a major county not to have the opportunity to play in our cricket, because they can add a lot of stuff to our cricket as well. They can add a lot of experience, a lot of quality, not only to the standard of cricket, but to the youngsters around them as well. And there's a number of those players that are playing in our cricket that are very good for our game, and hopefully are good for the youngsters in those teams as well.
Well, the perfect examples of that is a guy that we spoke to pre-Christmas, Mr. Gary Pratt, when he got to play NCCA. It was minor counties at the time. You know, Richard Gleeson's done it more recently, but with you guys as well. And it does mean that those guys get to play cricket at a ridiculously high level still, even if they're not being picked by their first-class county. Yeah,
and all those guys that you've mentioned, plus a lot of the other people in their situation, have got a lot of experience, a lot of quality. And hopefully, if they're a good bloke and they get into the team, they can inspire and help the youngsters coming through as well with their experience of stuff, whether it be first class stuff or so there's lots of bonuses to having those people in the team as well. And I think what we're trying to get is a balance, whether that be from an age perspective or the people that are in your team and where they're from as well. So yeah, I think we've got the balance right. All the counties pretty much have adhered to those criteria. So much so now that there used to be a sort of bonus payment related to adhering to that criteria, but that's been removed now and it's just gone into our general competition rules. So those rules have stayed, and that's it. So it's been I think it's been a really positive thing. The standard of our cricket has gone up year on year, in my opinion, and the age of the sides has come down. So those two things are sort of a perfect correlation of what we're looking for, really.
Absolutely. Bringing some of those players out to the first class counties, getting more cricket with you guys leads me on to a little bit. I'm going to open-ended question here, but also a slightly leading one. You wouldn't be surprised at that. The women's game are seeing this thing this year where we've got the equivalent of the FA Cup with the NCCA counties up against some of the tier 1 and tier 2 counties in the women's game. How close could we think to? We'd love to see that in the men's game, wouldn't we? We'd love to see the 20 NCCA counties up against the 18 because, let's be honest, there was a number of them who got beat by them last year.
Yeah, and that's been a conversation that's been ongoing for, well, for the 5 years I've been involved, actually. And more recently, because Richard Thompson, who is the new chair, obviously maybe 2 or 3 years deep now, but he's always shown a want for that to happen and that to be coming to the men's game. So I'm not surprised it's in the women's game when they've had a little bit of a blank canvas, so to speak, to start with the tiered system. And yeah, never say never with the men's stuff. I don't think it's on the plan. Well, obviously it's not on the plan this year because the season started, but I think there might be a bit of a rejig next year. And if the powers that be come to us and ask whether we're keen to do that, we'll obviously say yes, because I think all the national counties would jump at the opportunity to play in a competition like that. But yeah, it's not something that I've heard in the recent future, in the recent past, sorry, to happen in the near future. But yeah, like I said, we'll massively support that. We have the showcase games; they've been going on for the last 3 or 4 years, and we've demonstrated that the national counties can be very competitive in those games. So I think people would be really excited to see that, and I think there would be some upsets as well.
And that was part of the reason I asked the question, because for those who don't know, the showcase games have changed this year. Up to previous years, it was basically prescripted, wasn't it? You're going to play X, Y, Z. Here you go. This year, the national counties between themselves and the first class counties have basically sorted themselves out. I think the vast majority have sorted out showcase games now. Yeah.
So the difference this year has been, well, so previously we've had a date that has been put in the calendar generally around the end of July on a Sunday, when
the weekend before the 100.
Yes, and the Metro Bank.
Yeah.
So then we send out the pairings for the first class counties, the national counties. Obviously, 2 of the first class counties play 2 national counties because we have more counties than them. And then they kind of play a 50-over game on that day or a couple of days after. Whereas this year, from the feedback from our counties, was that we wanted a little bit more flexibility, whether that be on the date that we played the games, on the format that we played. So we have left it more down. We still sent out pairings, and then we left the first class county and the national county to discuss what was best. I think it's one of them where, in theory, that's great. In reality, the first class fixture list is very busy. The national county list is very busy because we've gone back to 4 groups of 5 in the T20, and we've retained our Super 12s. So that's an extra weekend for us. So it's been a little bit challenging to find a date that works for everybody. However, most counties have, and there's going to be a whole array of different games at different times, different formats, which I think for our cricket and for driving awareness of what we're doing is good, because there'll be promotion of those games going on throughout the summer rather than just in a block leading up until one point. So yeah, again, it's something that we'll review at the end of the year to see how it's gone. I'm not sure we'll be going back to a set date and a set format. So we'll probably there'll be little tweaks rather than a big sort of change back to what it was. But again, yeah, we'll review that at the end of the year and see where we get to.
For those who are listening or watching this, the date that excites me the most in those games is actually Friday, the 9th of May, where we've got Staffordshire on a double header against Leicestershire in T20. I mean, that shows the difference in the flexibility, doesn't it? Leicestershire last year played the Challengers as warm up to the Blast. This year, they're basically playing Staffordshire as warm up to the Blast. But Staffordshire are probably going to get a chance to play on the lights at Grace Road. Again, a great opportunity for national counties players.
Yeah, same with Berkshire as well. Berkshire are playing Sussex at Hove under lights. That'll be a great spectacle. It was last year for the Challengers. And no doubt Berkshire will do that fixture proud as well because they're a strong team. I think the other one to mention is the Wiltshire and Glamorgan.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a double header with the girls. So that is something that we've talked about a lot in the national counties of teaming up with the women's teams and seeing if we can play double headers. And maybe that's something we can look at again next year once the tiered system is a little bit more bedded in, I suppose, because I think it's a little bit of a work in progress in regards to what players are going to play where, and I think there's going to be quite a lot of movement. But come the end of the year, they'll have learned a lot, no doubt, and those tiers will have worked themselves out a little bit. So it might be even that we are a little bit more involved in running tier 3 of the women's game. That's certainly something that we're keen to do. But again, that's conversations for the end of the year once we've got all the insight from this year, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. From what I've heard on the, shall we say, the grapevine is, the tier 1 sides of the women and girls, no problem. They all had their sides. Tier 3, ironically, all the national counties, you had your pathways and you had the sides. But a lot of those tier 2 teams, the moment this all got announced, they had to go scrambling to find a lot of players because they didn't have those squads in the first place. And that's a lot of those women and girls are going to come from the national counties at the end of the day, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. And I suppose tier 2 are the ones that are going to have quite a lot of variation in their teams, whether they've got tier 1 players who need some cricket who are going to come down, or tier 3 players that are performing well and go up. And once those tier 1 players go back into the tier 1 counties, some of the tier 2 players are going to come back from tier 3 to tier 2, and then some of the tier 3 players that have dropped out will come back in. So that's going to be a tricky one to manage, no doubt. Luckily, that's not a problem, but it will be a tricky one to manage, I would have thought. But I think I can see the structure working really well. It's just working out exactly how that all fits together and making sure really that the girls have got plenty of cricket to be playing and at the right standard as well. So we'll I'll be watching to see how that all works itself out.
Definitely. I think as you've already pointed out, what's fascinating about the women and girls game is it's from a clean sheet of paper. They've literally started afresh. Whereas unfortunately in the men's game, we've got hundreds of years to a certain extent of scheduling and issues that have been happening. And that's where to a certain extent the national counties have to try and work around that. Then you've got the Premier Leagues to work around, the National Club Championship and all those things. And to be fair to the players, they have to put a shift in, don't they, the guys who are playing national counties?
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that there's quite a lot of travelling going on, but at the end of the day, as our name suggests, we're a national competition. So you've got to do that, and we try and regionalise some of our competitions to ensure that there's not a huge amount of travelling in the 50 over and the T20. So we keep one of them regionalised. One of them's a little bit more further afield. So you're not playing the same counties in every competition all the time because counties want to play different counties as well. So that is a bit of a balance, and no doubt the women's game are going to face those same issues, whether it's travel, because not only with travel comes commitment to actually make the journey. It actually comes at a cost because you can't travel 4 hours to play a game the next day. You need to have a hotel stay and all these things that people maybe when they just rock up and watch a cricket match don't realise. But it's an expensive thing to put together. So it's just juggling all those things and trying to give as much flexibility and variation to your fixture list as budgets allow, as player availability allows. And that's something that we juggle on a year-to-year basis anyway. So it's not something that the women are going to avoid because it's impossible to.
Absolutely. Talking of the costs of these things, I've put it all together. I was really pleased to see the 50 over trophy final being given to Chester Boughton Hall for this year. I mean, let's be honest, they had an absolute mare last year when it came to T20's final stage, not once but twice. That was a big thing for them to have there that last year. So is that part of the reason for the decision to put the 50 over trophy final there?
Yeah, and to be fair, if we hadn't moved the T20 and the 50 over around, they would have had the T20 finals day again. but we felt it was absolutely right. They put a lot of work in behind the scenes to putting that day on, and we had 3 days round off. Obviously, the T20 on the Sunday, the reserve day, and then later in the year we tried to do it again. But yeah, the weather just wasn't our friend last year. Not only in that, with the championship as well. But yeah, we felt it was right to go back there and give them an opportunity to host a 50-over competition, which is slightly simpler because you've got 2 teams and it's one game rather than 3. But yeah, we've done all the hard work with Chester, and it's a great club. It's one of my favourite clubs to play at in the country. So I'm looking forward to going back there, and hopefully the weather will be. It's the 13th of July, so if we can't get good weather on the 13th of July, then we're really struggling.
Well, for those who are listening to this, we're recording this after the first Premier League weekend, and if the amount of runs that were scored at Chester Boughton Hall at the weekend's anything to go by, we're in for a run fest by the time we get there, with 322 each for Chester Boughton Hall and Timperley, and a tie in the Cheshire Premier League. You don't get much better than that in a 50-over game, do you?
No, you don't. I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me because it's a great wicket and it's a good ground. And if we've had some really good weather, haven't we, for the last 2 or 3 weeks? So I'm sure the outfield's excellent, and yeah, you get scores like that up there quite a lot. And that's another reason we wanted to go back there, because if it is a nice day and they've had some good weather, the wicket is second to none. And there will be a lot of runs scored. And ultimately, in our finals, that's what we want to see. We want to see lots of runs, and that's coming from a bowler as well. So it hurts to say that, but there we go.
Absolutely. But when it comes to bowling, though, that 3-day championship at the end of the season, that would be one of the big ones for the bowlers to all target. And we're back at West Bromwich Dartmouth at the end of the season for the finals there.
Yeah, again, there's just so many good things about having it there. The way that they're structured, the wicket is fantastic for 4-day cricket. The guys up there put so much effort in. The wicket's played really, really well for the last 2 or 3 years. They've had a nightmare with the weather as well for a couple of those years, and they're there at 5 a.m. in the morning and ultra stressed, but they always get through it. They always do a brilliant job. So, yeah, we're going back there, and it's right in the middle of the country as well. So, depending on who gets to the final, albeit it was Staffs, which are just down the road, and Berkshire, which was just down the road last year. But
it was actually a home game for Staffs, to be fair.
Yeah, a little bit. They do play some games there, but yeah, it's a great place. Again, another great place to play, and the wicket's the real key for a 4-day final. So, yeah, we didn't want to move away from there just yet.
And the T20 finals, where are we going to be this year for them then, Richard?
Well, because the T20 and the 50-over are swapped, we're at Wormsley, which I'm super excited about because that is a great place. So hopefully we'll get even more people in. There's 500, 600, 700 people there last year, and that's steadily been increasing year on year. So the fact that there'll be 4 counties there now, hopefully we'll all bring a few supporters. We'll get a few other local people that come down and support as well. And that should be a brilliant day. So I'm looking forward to that.
Most definitely. And for those who are listening for the first time as part of the Premier League Cricket Show, where can they find all the national counties information? Where can they watch it if they can't get to a ground on a Sunday? And we'll be putting the fixtures out there week in, week out. But where would you say to everyone, go find your local national county?
Well, if you go onto the National Counties website, which is nationalcountiesca.co.uk, you can pretty much find everything on there. All of our social media accounts are linked off of there. That'll have all the fixtures on throughout the season in the build-up to this week. I think they're going out tomorrow in the build-up to Sunday. There'll be links off to all the other county websites. And we have a page on our site that is specifically for all of our live streams. So all of our counties live stream all their white ball games. And there's a page on our site. If you go onto the front pages, it says live games. Don't click on it yet because it's a pull-in. But if you do that on Sunday, all of the games will be there, and you can kind of dip in and out of the live streams of all the games that are taking place each weekend. So that's a really good place to start. And like I said, all the information, you can go onto the counties page and link to their pages, or go onto our social media, and all of our stuff is really well covered on all of our accounts.
Yeah, and I think for anyone who's listening, I'd just say it's simple. You might have your 18 first-class counties, but we all know that they have a limited schedule because there's the T20, there's the 100, there's everything else. Pick a national county. Almost everyone in this country is within an hour's drive of a national county. Pick one of them to follow as well, and you'll see all the best Premier League cricketers, full stop, playing national counties. You'll see top-end first-class county players dropping down. It's a great day out on a Sunday for the 50 over the T20s in particular, Richard. And then for the 3 days game, you'll see some real quality red ball cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the T20 stuff, you get two for the price of one as well, because we have two games on each day. So, and the other thing that's new, as you mentioned, the three competitions there this year, we've got an overall county champion this year. There won't be a trophy for it, but it's something that we've put together. So there's a point system
Okay.
where counties will accumulate points in each of the different formats, and we'll get a best performing county at the end of the year. So that's something new this year. It's kind of on the back of the sort of women's Ashes style
Mm.
point system. So yeah, it's not a an overly complicated system, but you'll get points for winning games, where you finish in the group system, and then how far you progress through each tournament. And then at the end of the year, we'll get a best performing county. So yeah, that's something new for this year, and that'll be all the information of that will be on our social media channels throughout the season as well, so you can keep up to date with that. The MVP will still be around. That's been going for now 2 or 3 years. So yeah, lots of cool content to keep in touch with how the counties are performing, and how the players are performing as well.
Brilliant. You know, I'll be all over it. Can't help but be looking at national counties week in, week out, and look forward to catching up with you talking about it halfway through the season, I'm sure, Richard.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.